Welcome back to the third place decider where Vitality have a chance to take the series as they are up 2-1 against Splyce. Vitality once again on the blue side, ready to take the series home. I don't think Splyce is going to let them go down so easy.
Well, we should hope so. I'm sure everyone
That'd be kind of boring.
Love 5 games, but we'll see. We'll see what Splyce can do. Are they going to change things up? They will be forced onto the red side again. We were talking a little bit about changing up their second phase bans a lot to Fisher.
Yeah, because I think at the moment, the Israel is not the answer for Splyce, because Vitality look very good whenever pushing bot lane.
Yeah,
it happened game 1, it happened game 3, and the Israel, of course, when you then pick a strong support against it, and then an AD carry that can just perma push, it's hard for Israel to bounce back unless you can all in, unless you can force plays. And that never happened in the last one. So I want to see if Splyce are going to change that. If they potentially early pick an AD carry in the first phase for Copy, so he's not forced to see more AD carries being banned away.
And do we see Splyce mix it up from this Skarner, Braum every single game? Do we see Kaseng go more towards those champions that he's known for, the range supports, more set up to kind of enable his AD carry in the early game?
I mean, we're yet to see his Morgana come out. I mean, it's admittable that, I mean, that's not a word, but the point is that Morgana...
It counts in Denmark, don't worry. You can tell us anything.
In terms of late game team fights, Braum will always offer more value than a Morgana will. She's very much about drafting for lane and going up against this Vitality bot lane. Can you really afford to try and draft for lane, considering how defensive Corbett and Kaseng often play?
There's also the option of continue with the same strategy, because last game, it was very even.
It was.
We walked into, of course, the first Baron team fight, and that's what kind of decided the whole thing. And both teams had some mistakes before that. It got abused, and then suddenly you bounce back a little bit, or team got a little bit further ahead. But I think just this bot lane, where Vitality getting the pushing priority, is just so good for them, because it actually means it's less about snowballing Jizuke, and more about just allowing mini Trupex to take a turret. The AD carries were even in items throughout the entire game, and as an Ezreal, that's not what you want to see. You want to get that item advantage in the mid game, so you can actually abuse that.
Now we head into picks and bans for what very well could be the final game if Vitality have anything to say about it. But Splyce, we're going to need to fire back. Once again on the red side, they used to take it with pride. We'll have to wonder if that's what they wanted this time around. Bans remain consistent. Swain should follow. But the third ban, always the big question in this series.
Yeah, so in game 1, Splyce banned Tom. In game 2, they banned Caitlyn. In game 3, they kept up with the Caitlyn ban. Clearly a lane-dominant champion that Mini Trupax is very comfortable on. Splyce, they could look to maintain that style, or they could try and shake things up.
I still think the Caitlyn ban would be smart, but maybe on the side of Splyce, you don't go Braum. You can grab the Tahm Kench. Try and use that down in the bottom lane to have good early trades on their side. Makes it a little bit harder for Vitality to potentially tower dive and kill Copy if that ends up happening. And once you get to the mid game, you can use that Tahm Kench effectively. Ooh, that change up. That's not an Olaf.
But that is a Skarner, and now Splyce have to change something in this first rotation.
I really like this because when Xerxes played Olaf against G2, they did not look good. It did not feel like it fit into Xerxes' wheelhouse. You're all about early game aggression, looking for an early snowball, getting those early leads, and while we've seen Xerxes be able to do it when he ganks towards the top side, outside of that, we haven't really found that same level of success.
And one champion we have not seen at all in this series, not picked, not banned, is Xerxes' Zac. Now I know it suffers against the Olaf and the Skarner, but this is a pick that identified him as a playmaker, where he had so much impact for the Splyce lineup. Is it something that they can go for?
If they're okay losing the early jungle matchup, then yes, they can do it, and they do bring it here. They need to win this game if they want to go to game 5. This is the most important one for this team. All split long, and Xerxes back to comfort here, Dragic. You already talked about it. Now, early game, Skarner will control you. He has the advantage, but what Zac brings is ganks. And if you are proactive, oh man, you can set up some insane plays.
Let's see if Xerxes can beat that playmaker. Big
Everything
shit. Everything from Vitality. Wow. Okay, so we typically saw Jizuke on things like Ryze and Zoe during the regular season. Things that you can have an early game lane dominant setup with, things you can look to make plays with. This is much more towards scaling. This is when Team Vitality have fallen behind in the early game, and it feels like they're almost saying we're willing to match Splyce in terms of scaling.
They're an Ornn and a Braum away from just taking Splyce's draft and saying, anything you can do, we can do better.
They were so impressed apparently with the Azir Ezreal from last game. They're like, let's take it, we need it. But this is gonna change a lot for Vitality. As you highlighted before, when they played scaling with the Azir, it's not been the same team. They've actually fallen behind a lot in these games and been really unable to get back in some of them. So this is a very different draft in this game. Of course, they do have the chance of a potential game 5 and then change it once again, but it's surprising to see them move away from things that actually worked to now something completely different.
Now the question is, will Splyce look to ban away Braum or Tom Kench? Because then if you're Splyce, you can just look to take the other one, and then you force Vitality into this awkward situation where there's no real optimal support pick going up against them.
The option's going to be...
I really like the Zoe pick from Niski. I think it's one of the great answers to Azir, and why some teams don't want to blind pick Azir anymore if there's still a chance of the enemy mid laner locking in Zoe. But Vitality, they don't care. They were fine playing against it.
Vitality really want to ban away Peter Dunn.
Yeah, why did
It's
it ban
not
Peter
really
Dunn?
available?
Oh, the referee as well.
Try and take him off that coach. He has been pretty strong in the drafts.
But you can't ban him, he's a coach, so instead Splyce will ban Tristana. Move on to their second ban,
So they're taking away...
or rather Vitality will ban Tristana.
So GP just got banned by Splyce as their second ban. So they leave both Tom Kench and Braum open
Interesting.
for the second phase here. The GP being taken away, of course, kind of showing us, you know, they don't want to deal with GP against the tank top lane. And Cabochard in the past used to play it a lot.
And on the side of Vitality, they take away the Braum, the only champion so far that Kasing has played in this series. They take away the Skarner. It looks like they're saying, we have a point advantage. Show us more, Splyce. What else can you actually bring to the table?
Will this be AD carry and save last pick for Kasing, which is the classic Splyce strategy from the regular season? They also realized there's a high chance Vitality will play heavily to bot side, which is another reason for banning GP, because what he offers is not insane early game damage, it's a global ulti that also swings the bot lane in favor of Vitality.
I'm feeling a Janna, Deficio. I feel like that's what Splyce are currently looking at. Vitality, you would expect them to go for something like the Tom Kench right now. Very safe, very much in the wheelhouse of Jack's role. You talked a little bit about the draft mirroring what Splyce did.
They banned Braum. They can't take Braum.
They can't
so they
do
can't
it.
100% copy
4
it.
out of 5 Vitality looking to try and outpace Splyce and say, you know what? We can
I mean,
do
to be
what we did
fair,
better.
if you want to win a third place match in style, taking the enemy's team composition and using it to beat them is a pretty impressive feat. Vitality, though, mixing it up with the Karma as the final pick. It looks like despite not getting the priority pick on the bottom side, they're quite happy with this.
They just know that Splyce is not going to go for Tom Kench. They're so confident. They're thinking, Splyce want the range support. We do not want to give them that guaranteed pushing and winning lane.
Or if it's Tom Kench, Vitality saying we can continue to push the bot lane and try and take down the turret. But I think it's a little bit harder against the Civic wave clear. And Splyce will have some playmaking potential with Tom Kench, but instead it's a classic Kasing. Save it for last pick, and he then gets what he considers a good matchup for the bottom lane to try and actually see if Splyce can win it.
Kasing finally off the tankier picks onto a range support again. Who's actually going to come out on top in bottom lane? One of the few matches where it feels like it's contested from the start in terms of push priority.
Game 1 and Game 3, the way Vitality played around the bot lane, they got ahead. They got kills around the bottom side. They got early turrets. Will be a lot harder in this game. There's a lot less roaming potential from Tizuka in mid. No Taliyah pick. It is the Azir. So this is a complete change for a team that's won 2 out of 3 games already in this series.
Faith, though, remains in the Royal Arena. Kabe, the crowd chants, ready to see if he can show up and carry this team. They've definitely given him the power to do so on this Sivir pick.
Man, these comps are so exciting as well. Splyce drafting very much towards team fighting. They do have a bit of, I mean, when you look at this bottom, then you're kind of expecting the Sivir to have that push. But when you go up against the Karma as well, I'm really interested to see how the lane will play out. Will Vitality look to just constantly go aggressive, look for these trades, try and use that tendency of we want to win this lane to find that push?
Because that's the lane they can play around. Like Zoe does well against the Azir. We have seen the Sign push against the Ornn every time we've seen this matchup today.
Yep.
So Splyce will be more than happy with the solo laners. Bot lane is where we're gonna get a lot of focus in terms of early push and see if one team can get the advantage.
All right, well, as the teams load onto the Rift, let's head over to Laura, who's with Yamato Cannon to discuss.
Very different drafting choices here. What do you players need to do to make it work with the Azir and Ezreal?
I think right now not both, but every single game we have priority on bottom. Bottom is doing fantastic against enemy bot. We're doing fantastic in top as well. As long as we solve our issue in mid lane, there will be no issues and we will go smooth sailing right into the victory.
Okay, we'll see about that. Let's send it over to our casters for Game 4, Vitality versus Splyce.
V for victory. We'll see if Yamato Cannon is backed up by his players as they move forward into this game. But jungle priority is something we brought up in the draft that I think is important here because we talk about push priority for these lanes. We talk about Niski potentially having a favorable matchup. But what does Gilius having the Skarner over the Zac mean for this early game?
Well, we know that if Gilius are looking for early plays, his damage is way higher, especially 1v1 if he finds the Zac. It does require him to have some pushing lanes so he can actually invade. But if you look at the Azir pick as well from Dazuka, Yamada kind of just said, we need to solve a problem here. And that's probably because Dazuka was lacking some sort of mobility in the lane and Xerxes was always around him. They didn't really like that. So they put him on this Azir, which of course is safe wave clear and a lot of ways to play more defensive. But it's an interesting change.
He's going up against Niski's Zoe as well, who did have a really good game one. 5-0-1 was his score, or 5-1-1 rather was his scoreline. We can see a bit of a sneaky play from Trupax and Jacktroll down on the bottom lane. They did push up into the brush on Splyce's side of the lane, and they will be able to get the first push on this 2 versus 2.
They love to do this. Karma level 1, Ezreal level 1, fantastic. Ton of extra damage coming in for you. Of course, Karma cheating a little bit by effectively starting with the ulti to use on the very first hit, and Splyce will instantly realize it's hard to actually trade back against this combo from Vitality, and they like to do this. Solo start jungler, they sit bot lane already.
And no spell shield to mitigate the damage for now. So many Trupax and Jacktroll, kind of as expected, once again taking bot lane priority here, setting themselves up to do so. You look at the junglers, both are clearing to the bottom side as well. So top lane and island, as it has been across the vast majority of this series, but bot lane remains the center of attention.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought attention to the junglers here, Dracos, because I feel like that bottom lane Scuttle Crab is going to be very important for Vitality to get for themselves. Look at how far they are pushed up already. What I'd love to see from Gilius is just make sure that Vitality have river control towards the bottom side of the map and give that extra bit of safety to Trupax and Jacktroll to allow them to play their style.
Of course, he has a shrine there, so just really no hope for Xerxes to move in and contest. Maybe could go for a steal, but won't find the opportunity. Bot side vision secured for Vitality, and now Gilius wants to look for a little bit of an invade. Xerxes goes for the greedy double clear, and Gilius could just look to turn this back against him.
Because they got that pushing bot lane, he can go in here. He knows there can be a support roaming in with him, but Xerxes for now just stepped away. A lot of members around. Reminds me of game 1, where we might get some very early fights. Instead, Xerxes ended up losing a ton of HP and did not get a single camp because he wanted both. Gilius is back.
It's one of the big things about Zac as well. When he's going through the jungle, he does lose a lot of his own health because health is the cost for using a lot of his abilities, and often you don't always see it punished, but Gilius right now utilizing the fact that he does have the power lanes, as you identified, Deficio, to try and put pressure on.
And because Niski moved down earlier, Jizuke got to push in mid first, so Niski's now stuck under his turret. Can't really assist his jungler, and this is why we talk about the risk of Zac and the weaker early game. Skarner invading him, Vitality putting all the focus on getting push in the bottom lane, level 1, level 2, so Gilius can do exactly this. And Xerxes, he's gonna regret trying to do both camps at once potentially, or he just realizes, you know what, there's nothing I can do.
And look, you can see 8-1 record, 7.5 KDA with the Zac for Xerxes during the spring split. This is a big comfort pick for this guy.
And we saw it permanently banned in his series against G2. No one wanted to let him have this. Vitality were unconcerned, did not want to spend a ban on it, and we're starting to see why. When they have the priority in bot lane, they just take everything from Xerxes.
But that also ties in with the confidence that Vitality have in Gilius as a jungler. We know that he likes to be aggressive. He likes to assert himself into the enemy half of the jungle. He's done it every single time he's got his hands on Olaf, and he's doing it again here because he knows he has the winning match.
It's just perfect use of that early pressure on bottom side. Yes, okay, he needs a little bit of help to fully kill the Drake in time. Will go down now, and Vitality, good start from them. Xerxes will get his Raptor camp, or potentially try and invade against Gilius, thinking that Gilius will go back to base and try and return the favor a little bit.
We talked about one change, it was the Zac. Kasing, the other big change, now onto a range support. A lot more of comfort picks coming in for him as a player. We've seen him much, much more successful.
He has no champion support.
You know, and it's interesting that you bring up the bottom lane as well, Dracos, because remember when Mini Trupax got his hands on the Civet and we saw Ezreal being pushed under tower and he really struggled, whereas this time around it's so different, and it's all because of the difference in supports. Vitality recognized that, listen, if we go for a Karma now, Kasing will either pick a range support, which will still give us the push, or he'll go Tahm Kench, guaranteed the push. And if they just recognize that in the draft, they know that Splyce have this tendency to try and give Kasing the counter pick. They were ahead of the curve, and now they're the ones controlling this bottom half.
And also just because they start their level 1, they don't help the jungler.
That's very
they
true.
sit there and abuse the strong early game from the duo they have to further get control in this lane. And then they tie it up with Gilius coming on down to bottom side and invading Xerxes. So it's a good start from Vitality. Not a giant gold lead just yet, but we're still so early that having a giant CS lead on your AD carry is all you want.
Of course, you have to remember, you see this 10 wins, 3 losses on the range supports, tanks 3-8. This is before the series, of course, so it's not factoring in the recent Braum performances. Definitely more favored on these range supports. However, this time, it's starting to turn against him.
Yeah, we just really wanted to highlight the difference in preferences and playstyles for the support for Splyce. So far this game, he certainly has been striking.
Now a thing to look for is when can Kobe go back to base and get a BF sword? That's kind of the big thing for him.
Officio, never. He's never allowed.
I mean, at the moment he's not.
CS already, 65 to 44.
Yeah, typically you try and call down your jungler to bottom side so you can actually push out the lane, and then he can go back and get a fine recall without losing too much. But in this case, it's Gilius controlling bottom side here. It's Vitality deciding when to go back, and if you go back as Ezreal for Tyr and Sheen, ooh, you're very happy.
Yep. Very happy indeed. I think it's important to remind people exactly what's on the line here, because with their backs against the wall, Splyce go back to comfort. They get the scaling pick for Kabe. They're happy to play around the bottom side. Kasing gets a comfort pick as well. Xerxes gets the Zac. But if it's now getting turned against them, that is a grim state to be in.
And both these teams playing for that spot at Rift Rivals in summer of later this year, going up against North America. You heard Yamano at the beginning of the show talk about how that international experience is so valuable. 3 rookies are competing to be a top 3 team in Europe, along with the veterans of Gilius and Cabo. And with the confidence that Gilius had coming into the split, he certainly has been able to back up a lot of his words. So Vitality want to try and end their first season on a high.
But of course, on the road to do so now, Splyce are going to be in a bit of a tough spot as we look back at the bottom lane. We look at the itemization coming in as predicted.
There's his BF Officio. He finally
BF sword finally coming in, but sadly at the same time as that Tyr plus the Sheen.
Yeah, Kobe could not decide when to go back to base, so that suddenly Minchubex could not complete those 2 items at the same time. And Kobe's going to be happy that he didn't lose more HP on his turret, because obviously Minchubex has been keeping the wave here, waiting for Jack Troll to return. And now there's level 6 on the Ezreal, level 6 on the Sivir. Advantage still over towards Vitality, but a bit easier for Kobe to wave clear now, which is going to be important in trying to just keep this turret alive.
Will certainly help him out a lot, especially if he can get to the wave first. He's stuck using his boomerang blade and just clearing out the waves. Now Xerxes doing an old classic that we saw from Splyce during the second half of the split, where they often gank towards Odo, try to get him ahead, but he decides not to go for the gank.
And despite being delayed a bit early game, didn't actually hurt him. He's level 6 before Gilius. Gilius, of course, spent his time on securing bot side vision, getting the Infernal Drake for his team, which is Xerxes spent on then counter jungling Gilius and actually get back in the game experience-wise. So this Zac has not been shut down that hard in the early game. It's just actually his bot lane kind of suffering a little bit because he can't help them.
Yeah, having to lend Kasing a little bit to secure the bottom side, or at least attempt to. Did cost a bit, but it is good to see that Xerxes has not fallen too far behind. As you mentioned, this is a big pick for him. Really needs it to work if the team wants to find a win here and take us to a Game 5. But Gilius keeping up the pressure, still willing to invade, still willing to force things out.
And again, control wards in the river, something that Vitality have done a great job of doing throughout this series. Also, Jizuke getting push in the middle lane after the nerfs to Zoe. The wave clear was hit, and Jizuke just taking advantage of that fact right now. Moving in now, once again, with Gilius, they want to take this blue.
Mid lane priority, the Predator icon giving away intent here.
Oh, it feels so bad to be the jungler of Splyce. Every time you try and do something on the bottom side, the enemy team invades. And your team can't really help you. Niski stuck in mid again. Xerxes just have to give up the blue buff, goes over to Jizuke, and as we see as well, like when we've seen the Zoe versus Azir, we've seen the enemy jungler be around a lot, set up the plays with Zoe landing the sleep first and then getting free trades. Not happening in this case here because Xerxes just kept under control for now.
Things already looking a little bit grim in this early game. The tanks trade even on the top side. Niski may look to make a difference here, though. Ulti does come in from Ottawamne. Not a ton of mana left for him, though, so can't keep the play going. Niski has to walk away. Splyce really needed that one to work out and just not going to get anything.
And now he's missing mid. That's going to be a push from Jizuke into a potential play.
And look at the CS differences already, both bottom and mid lane, so heavily in favor of Vitality. And as you said, now with all this pressure set up to make a play on bottom side, for now it's just the Gromp, but they could look to play something aggressive here.
Here comes Azir. Xerxes just wants to help with the wave clear as Cabo
wants to look for the outplay. Not going to get it to
the
shield up just in time. But in the meantime, bottom lane, Jack Troll was forced to burn the flash from the aggressive play from Xerxes.
Recognize that Odo will be able to go back to base now, has the TP ready, will be able to buy a couple of items Unfortunately, there's no deep vision for him to try and find a flank towards the bottom side. Cabo likely going to be doing the same soon so he can match that potential crossfire.
Ooh, felt like Vitality could have gotten more there. If Jizuke had walked down instantly with his jungle to try and force Splyce away from that turret. But instead, they ended up just getting a flash blown on their support. Jack Troll was very quick, feeling pretty scared. And that can actually hurt him now if he wants to continue pushing to the enemy turret. The fact that Xerxes could jump over the wall and just kill him without this flash. There's a small way in for Splyce's bot lane if the jungler is around. For now, it's just not looking great with that CS difference.
Yeah, for now, the Inferno and about 1k gold lead in the favor of Vitality. Exactly what they like from the early game. They're going to force out the lane swap here. No longer looking to sit in that lane against mini Trupax. And of course, Vitality not aware of it, so Splyce will have priority here on the swap.
I mean, it makes sense, right? You're expecting to lose that tower rather than just immediately losing it. You may as well generate pressure by creating a numbers advantage up top side and then create this trade of towers.
Also with Drake being alive, they're expecting Gilius to be bottom lane. This actually means Splyce could start the Rift Herald while also going for this early turret and try and get 2 objectives, while of course losing the first turret gold on their side. But they're so far behind at the moment that they just want to try and get this turret down, make sure they get some gold for themselves, and Xerxes can then go Rift Herald, as we just mentioned. And this could be a good trade for Splyce if they get the Rift Herald, but I think Vitality with the first turret gold, also getting another Drake, are going to be fine with this.
Yeah, I feel like this is a best case scenario for Splyce given the situation you're put in.
Oh, but Cabo's there to clear
good,
the play.
wave clear.
Uses the ulti. They're not going to be able to break the tower quite yet. So Xerxes, in the meantime, going to try to take the Rift Herald, but they're ready to contest. Potentially, Jizuke could move over and look to stop this.
Yeah, if he moves over there to try and be annoying, Xerxes might be forced to jump out, but he's playing it safe knowing he's going to be alone doing it. So we get the bot lane turret plus Drake for Vitality. Splyce knew they would lose the first turret, and they still get double objective. So in a losing situation, this is not a bad trade.
Happy to have it, but it does mean that because of the wave clear, because of the extra time it took to take the top lane tower, that Vitality are in a good position on the map to keep pressuring out. Their bottom lane already en route to the top side, ready to take another tower if they're left uncontested.
I'm curious as to where Splyce send their 2 versus 2. Will they look to continue with the match? I feel like it makes the most sense given that there are little objectives on the board. Potentially they move the mid, but I feel like for the time being, you just want to keep that farm incoming and then just keep towards the top side.
And because they're behind in the play now, as you can see, mini Trupax and Jack Troll already back in lane, ready to push, they have to actually match the dual lane. So they don't suddenly give up another turret without being able to get anything in return. They go back top, they have quick wave clear on this Sivir, there's some attack speed now as well, so Copy should be able to hold the turret, and then you try and just even it out if you're Splyce.
Have a look at Odo Omne's positioning as well. He did push out bot lane and made a sneaky roam up towards mid, but because of these 3 wards that were just littered around, 4 wards, my apologies, they were littered around for Vitality, they were able to spot Odo
Fourth one a
Omne.
little redundant.
Yeah, as he roamed down. So no play in the mid lane was able to happen.
And things looking pretty good for Vitality. Splyce doing their best to trade back, still relying on that Sivir to scale up. Mini Trupax getting closer to the 2-item spike that the Ezreal loves to have, but Tyr at only about 400 stacks, so not quite in range of getting that massive power spike that he wants to engage for a little bit more.
We're just waiting. We're just waiting for the big plays to happen. Guarantee you, once we get past the 20-minute mark, we will get quite a lot of team fights between the two.
I feel like we're back at the early start of the split, Deficio, where it was all about just a lot of farming, scaling, wait for late game team fights around the Baron.
Okay, this is not double targets. This is not as bad as double Relic
But
Shield meta.
it feels like compared to the rest of the series that we've had so far, this has been a very low action game. You know, we've seen so much early activity from either jungler.
To be fair, every time we say that, within like 2 minutes, people
I know,
start
that's
dying.
why I said it. I was debating it. I was hoping that would happen.
For now, Vitality happy just pushing with the dual lane, but
now.
sadly, because Sivir got items, they can't just push on the turret anymore, and this buys a lot more time for Splyce to continue just kind of stall the game out a bit. And around mid, we could potentially see a play, but because of cleanse on Jizuke, it's hard to kill him in a 2v1.
And one thing that we looked at a lot in the previous game was kind of scaling on both sides as we get into these games where it looks like both teams are content to farm. Vitality have mixed it up. Now it's Jizuke who is their late game scaling threat. Splyce have done the same. It's Kabe on the opposite side who actually benefits the most from us having this kind of slower game where both teams aren't necessarily looking for the most aggressive play.
I mean, I feel like there's benefit from both sides, but we've got to keep our eyes on what the jungler is up to right now. Getting a bit of control towards the top side. Jizuke also roaming up, given that he did have push over mid. And again, just look at the river. Vitality, good vision control with the control boards. I think their eyes are set on this tower.
Jizuke looking for the engage. Just the movement speed there. Gilia's going to get pulled back. And no follow-up there for the team. Jizuke doing what he can. Not going to be enough of engage, though, but they are starting to look for it.
This is Xerxes once again. his ability to read what Gilius is trying to do. Often a blessing and a curse, given that he often tries to mitigate a lot of the plays that Gilius tries to make, but then fails to be proactive himself, just like we saw in Game 3.
Most classic Splyce stalling strategy is Xerxes just launching himself towards the enemy minion wave when it hits the turret. He will do it over and over and over just to force the enemy away. But in terms of, your question before, Drakus, who does it benefit the most? Like, if you look at the entire split, the fact that Splyce have a late game carry that is Kobe, that's been a way they've won a lot of games earlier, where Jizuke's Azir, while it's been fine, it's been hard for him to solo carry his team in the late game. I still think Vitality showed last game they can easily beat Splyce in team fights, and it's just going to come down to the individual play between the two big carries and the setup.
Of course, a very different game too in terms of who has the damage pressure. A lot more pressure on Kabe, a lot less pressure on Niski to be the big source of damage output, but does need to look for those picks. Him and Xerxes need to get these fights started on their terms.
Look, 4 members grouped up from Vitality in the middle lane. Given that Splyce just used the Rift Herald top, they know where Xerxes is, and they can feel pretty confident that they can take this tower. They're standing in the way of the minions to make sure that they stay alive, but here comes Odo.
So the engage is going to connect onto Gilius. Snare going to come in from Jack Troll. Will connect, but there is no follow-up. TP now used in response, but canceled out. Not looking for the
They're baiting us. We think a fight is going to happen, but no, it's just to force Vitality away from the turret. Splyce do have the Rift Herald top side, actually about to charge into the turret. Meanwhile, all the members are around mid. Jizuke does take a bit of damage.
Has the sidestep there. Knockup is going to connect. Jizuke now in trouble, needs to make it out to safety. Shifting sands, not enough. First blood comes in for Splyce. Xerxes now locked up under the tower. Cannot be displaced. Will just make it out with a sliver of life. In the meantime, Minitrapax does what he can, but Splyce with a nice little win.
Now, Splyce utilized the pressure from Rift Herald to just group up mid and force a play. Cabo didn't have TP, so he couldn't really set up a flank or respond to the initial engagement coming out from Splyce. And they have Zac, Sion, and Sivir ulti, so they're more than ready to just say, hey, we have more people, we're ready to fight.
And a little bit too relaxed from Jizuke in that mid lane. Not respecting the fact that all 5 players from Splyce will actually be around, so he stays out, dodges around a little bit, still saving his flash, gets knocked up, and then ends up flashing to the side and just dies. That was one of those deaths where he could easily have stayed alive, and I think he just said something, I think there was an F word in there, and then something up.
Flip.
That was it.
Fudge.
I flipped up, that's what he said.
Yes. Well, I think you gotta, from his perspective, maybe he was outside the hitbox, not used as much to playing against that Sion.
Because he always plays with Sion on his team?
I gotta give him something, right?
You tried.
On my screen, it looked like he was a little bit outside of it, but...
Not on mine.
Can confirm, I've just been told by production that Jizuke said, holy moly.
Holy moly, guys.
It's one of my phrases, actually. It's,
holy
I
moly.
can't believe that it just happened.
We might get a fight around this Drake here. First 2 went to Vitality. They're all setting up around, and Niski is pretty low.
Now, the Ornn ultimate is still unavailable for a little while, going to be up relatively soon. Truepax, I believe he used his ultimate to clear out a wave, but still stacking in the top side from Splyce. Splyce, though, they don't feel confident to fight right now, so they're just going to go back to base and concede for now.
Vitality getting yet another Drake. 3 backing them up, and incredibly powerful ones at that. Earth, Wind, and Fire, baby. A true classic.
This is like the only time I've ever seen that. I don't even understand the reference. All I know is casters love making it whenever they see that.
You pointed at it, so I had to do it, but it's been done so much now that I try to avoid it.
That's fair.
But it's okay.
I gave you a freebie. You're welcome.
I appreciate you. It was also Earth, Wind, and Fire in game 2.
All right, but let's have a look at how the gold is comparing right now, because while Vitality have a small early game lead, I feel like that given how much pressure they were applying on the bot side of the map, that pressure has kind of been alleviated now from Splyce, and they're feeling a little bit more comfortable. We start to think about how much more teamfight value this Zac is going to have when you compare it to Gilius' Skarner, who's now just been caught out.
Has to walk away. Does not want to get kidnapped there. Xerxes goes on the retreat. Used to be able to threaten the Zac, to duel, to shut him down, but Zac's starting to get tankier, getting a lot harder for Gilius to really threaten the tanky Zac.
So we've not seen Xerxes being shot down. Big thing for Splyce. He now forced another summoner against Gilius. That's a lot of playmaking potential being removed. Oramna gets a bit of damage on bottom side. Meanwhile, the rest of Splyce still around mid. So we have this close game. Game 4 between them. Gilius now waiting, and then no flash.
He's going to go forward. Mini Truepax throws down a bit of damage. Xerxes actually taking a lot there. Very low mid lane tower. Jizuke willing to body block here.
And we can see Mini Truepax. He's in that lovely position as an Israel, where you have your 2 items, and the enemy AD carry needs 3 to even do anything in the game, and he can actually try and abuse it. So he's around mid, dealing a ton of damage with his poke. And this mid lane turret should go down fairly soon, but Oramna is around. Can he ult in and force a fight?
Want to get the tower, slowly ticking from the red buff. Sleepy Ezreal could be good. Tries to flash out to safety. Odo not going to pull the trigger on the engage.
Being shown there from mini Trupax. Interestingly, even though Cabo did TP to mid, Splyce never tried to force the fact that they had TP advantage over their opposition. Right now, that with Cabo's back up, Xerxes now looking for a fight. Jack Troll
wants to get the fight started, but it's a bit of a split engage here. Both members going to each side. Mini Trupax now free hitting onto Odoamne as the team is not there to back him up. He's going to look to get out. Sleepy goes in. Kave now wants to get a kill on Jizuke, but a very split engage means no one is going to drop.
It's a lot of poke damage coming out from mini Trupax, but they've always got to be careful of the amount of burst that Niski does have on the Zoe.
I feel like we see this a lot this game though. Like, potential fight about to happen, could be a big one, and it's just a bit of damage being dealt and everyone backs away. Really setting up for the next 10 minutes and what hopefully becomes the first full-blown big team fight between the two teams. Baron is alive, can be played around soon. Vitality, Dragon lead, small gold lead on their side, and mainly just mini Trupax being very far ahead in terms of his actual damage output we've seen so far in the game. But Kobe just completed his shift, therefore he can try and match some of it.
One of the biggest struggles we've seen when it comes to Ezreal being played in Europe is utilizing the 2-item spike to the fullest. Talk about when Sivir hits that 3-item spike, she's going to be able to match and even out-damage the Ezreal. So a bit of a window here that Vitality need to capitalize on.
Should be very close to his Blade of the Ranking as well, with the Cutlass already completed. I feel like with the composition that they have, Vitality more than happy to set up these kind of pressure points around the Baron area. They have the Ornn. Remember how valuable he can be in these choke points, but it's really important that you get this deep vision too because of the avenues that Zac can take to start these fights. We've talked so much about how Xerxes as an individual is the big catalyst for starting the fights for Splyce. When you get to play the Zac and when you can come out from almost anywhere, it's really important that Vitality have this kind of deep vision control.
Now we can see tension starts to build here. Splyce know their backs are against the wall. They've been able to get small advantage in terms of that single kill, but otherwise they've been a bit behind across this entire game thus far.
There we go.
Tower will finally go down. Now a 2k gold lead in favor of Vitality on top of the 3 Drakes. Both teams seemingly content to continue scaling, but Vitality making sure that they make the most of their advantages as mini Trupax continues to play front line. Cabo maybe looking for the engage here. Kasin gonna leap out, but forced to use the ultimate on himself.
They're trying, once again, they're trying to get the fight here. Favor of Vitality, but everyone just backs away, and now it's some return damage. Mini Trupax forced to jump away, took the big hit to his face.
And when you think about who that trade went in favor of, you'd argue that Splyce did, because Mini Trupax has now been forced back. One of the big damage dealers available for Vitality is no longer available, so Splyce get priority over mid. They also can clear out some of the vision throughout the river. They're the ones in control of the Baron for now.
And then, yeah, you get some of these wards down, you buy a bit more time by pushing the lanes, but I think Vitality can return, replace the same wards, start baiting around the Baron if they want to, and abuse Mini Trupax and his advantage.
Next Drake coming up is an Infernal as well. Could be yet another catalyst for a fight. We've seen this in games prior where that Dragon is the big objective, gets contested, and can often be where blood gets spilled in the immediate follow-up Baron. Sometimes the prize for going for those big aggressive team fights. And we see it, Sivir still a little bit far away from the 3-item spike. Niski working towards the death cap. Seems like maybe there's an opportunity for Splyce to find a pick to get things going in their favor, but they're playing very, very safe at this point in the game.
I was a little baffled there, looking at Jizuke's build path. I'm like, I can't remember what Fiendish Codex and a Blasting one built into. And then, of course, the Banshee's there. It makes a lot of sense.
You're not supposed to admit that.
Yeah.
You just don't talk about it until it's completed.
It's important to recognize your mistakes. Now I have learned, along with the audience.
But they already knew.
Don't bring the audience in here with you. Don't blame this on them.
This is really good though. Trupax gets the top lane turret. Still has 15 seconds to walk bot lane and fight for the Drake. And Kobe's item build is so expensive with IH and Essence Reaver, so it's going to be a while before he gets it. And that means Vitality should be able to secure a 4th Drake for themselves. And that's going to be big in terms of the scaling, because we know it's going to end up in some of these big late game fights. The double Infernal there will be huge for them. And I don't know, Splyce might stay around and try and fight it, but their AD carries is a lot weaker.
Have to be careful. You give his ear.
He's sleeping in the wall.
Interesting. Doesn't make it out. Poke continues to come in.
Here we go. This could be
Drowsy Karma going to be a little bit awkward. Jizuke there to body block. Not quite what he wants, but using soldiers to cut off the choke point. Kabi steps forward, takes a lot. Xerxes gets the dragon in the meantime. Finally, Splyce getting something for themselves. Still behind in gold, but Xerxes proving he can still outsmite Okay, now on the front lines. He's
Look at
ready.
him go.
He's going to flash out to safety. Now they're going to look for the follow-up. But Cersei's in the back line. Suppressed before he can get anything else out. Meanwhile, Splyce is starting to clean up the fight. Mini Trupac's on the retreat. Odoamne perfectly on the front line. They can't step into the sleepy trouble bubble. Everything is falling apart for Vitality. Splyce finding a fight to start things off. It is just Cabo and Mini Trupac versus the world. But Niski is running down, looking for one more kill to bring it in. Slowly they're backing off. Cabo running for his life, but a massive fight for Splyce.
And it all started off with Jizuke making such a big misplay. Niski punishes him so effectively. And off the back of this fight, Splyce have their eyes set on the Baron.
Yeah, they've been stalling and stalling and stalling. It looked like they were going to lose another Drake, but Cersei flies in, steals it from Gilius. Now they win the fight. They go for the Baron here. Mini Trupax, not a lot of mana on him. He might have just go back to base, and what an early swing in favor of Splyce.
3K and dropping. Look like the Baron will be secured on the side of Splyce. Massive turn in their favor. Getting ever closer to that late game fight.
So let's have a look. Jizuke here, he goes over the wall, trying to take down the support. And Niski's like, okay, I will take free fried chicken, and picks himself up an easy kill onto Jizuke. He gets himself a double kill. The bubble there to zone Mini Trupax and the rest of his squad away, trap them in that choke point, and secure what was a very clean fight.
And Cabo just went back and fully bought an Infinity Edge. Ooh. That was the whole thing. We were kind of like, oh, Mini Trupax is going to be stronger now. This is a good time to fight for Vitality. But then the animated carry picks up kills, gets a Baron, gets an Infernal Drake, and now he's on 3 items. That was a huge advantage for Vitality.
Here comes
They need to get some kills here.
Right, they need to knock somebody up. They need to take somebody out. The flashes come out. It's the only advantage they're going to get. Both sides backing up, but Vitality hungry to get an edge.
So Flash is now gone for Corbett. Gilius, he did use the Predator, I believe. The Righteous Glory is unavailable as well. And Cabo's ultimate is on cooldown rather.
Bit of damage.
Look at Cersei, he's coming in.
Once the fight started, we'll take right back into the middle of the team. Cabo, is he going to be able to make it out? Looks like he will just get cut down, and Vitality in no position to respond. Jizuke is not there.
This is regular season Splyce. Fall behind, stall the game, look for one big fight, look for one big engage from Cersei, and then you're right back into it. He finds another counter engage here onto Vitality, and Kobe, he just wants to get a QSS at this point because he knows the only way he dies is if Gilius ults onto him, and he can probably get it next time, especially with the extra gold. Jizuke is around top side. Will he do something here? No, Instant just walking in. Turret will go down.
Doing what he can to clear it out. Meanwhile, Niski's on the bottom side pushing in, using his Baron buff to keep the split pressure up. Things looking a little bit grim now for Vitality. Such an even game for so long. Suddenly turning against them, a single play, a single bad fight, giving Splyce the edge.
You know, we talked a lot about how at the beginning of this game, Vitality effectively picked Splyce's comp. They went more towards the mid and late game. They didn't rely on getting an early game lead, and we talked about how during the regular season, this was not how Vitality found wins. And so far, in this game, they weren't able to find any early advantages. It came down to one mid-game fight. They ended up falling behind, and Splyce, now they're in their element.
I like what they tried to do with the bot lane at least. Take the Israel, try and win it super hard, get Mini Trupax to get really far ahead of Kobe. But then if you lose that fight at the Drake, which is the entire thing you've been building towards, it all falls apart.
Exactly, and we saw such good use of the bot lane priority. Gilius was shutting down Cersei, but it didn't matter. They were winning bottom lane, but it didn't matter. This is the thing. They got the lead, and they just could not keep the ball rolling on the side of Vitality, and suddenly, we're in a Splyce favored game.
And I kind of have to bring attention to Jizuke, because he's been kind of the up and down player. He's either making the hero play, or he's the one getting caught out. And that fight, he goes to the support, he makes the biz misplay. Let's see if Vitality can get the engage.
Singh wants to get out fast enough to dodge out. Gilius just continues to run forward. Cersei, they're ready for the counter engage.
But so far, what have Splyce been able to get off the back of this Baron? I believe they took one tier 1 in the mid lane, and Niski took the tier 2 down in the bot. So they were able to get a couple of advantages, but they haven't actually gained much ground onto Vitality. Vitality are just forcing these fights to try and delay the Baron as much as possible.
Of course, next Dragon a Cloud as well, so maybe not ideal for the time period in which Splyce feel very confident about their control over the map.
But you got more time to get QSS on your AD carry.
Yep.
You got more time for your jungler to outscale the enemy jungler in the next few fights. And I also think Lulu, with the way she buffs up her AD carry to basically run that insanely fast that it feels like Kobe can do whatever he wants. Like, it's so powerful in the late game. So Splyce will be happy just getting the Baron in the first place and not having to concede the first one, despite not getting an inhib or something with it.
And it's very reminiscent of when Kasing would bust out the Zillion. Use that movement speed so the copy is just untouchable in fights. It's a very similar strength that the Lulu will provide. And you guys have already brought it up. Let's just say again, this is a flashback to the early weeks of Splyce. Yes, a little bit rougher in the early game, but this time they stay even. They don't fall behind. And suddenly they're in that terrifying late game point.
And the fact they also got that Infernal Drake. They were not supposed to even get close to it, but Gilius lost the Smite War against Xerxes. And instead of being double Infernal on one side with an Azir, who then becomes the massive late game threat, it's Splyce grabbing it for themselves. Just insane value for one Smite.
And you look at it, 303 CS, but still only 2.5 items coming in from Jizuke. Opposite side, 3 items for Niski, 3.5 for Kabe as well. This is a very difficult team to play against as we get later in the game. Jizuke has to play perfectly, and he doesn't have the same luxuries as Kabe does. He doesn't have the extra movement speed, a little bit from Jack Troll, but not nearly the same amount.
I'm interested to see how Vitality can claw their way back in, if they can at all. Splyce, so good at this point in the game. This is where we've given them so much praise, and they're drafting a composition that is designed to tailor their strengths. Niski bringing out the new Zoe. He's been playing overall fantastically throughout this series, and now on the Zoe, 2-0-2. 3 items finished. 1 misplay from Vitality could result in your death if Niski sees the opportunity.
Yeah, if you're Gilius right now, you gotta be careful because you're just gonna die right like that. Splyce find the individual member, they pick him off, and now it is all too easy for them to get control.
Man, that single ward just completely baited Gilius. He wanted to kill it so badly. Suddenly a red buff AD carry walks out around the corner, kills him, jungler flies in as well, and now Splyce, they can suddenly get a bunch of turrets. This looked like a game where it was just waiting for second Baron, but I guess one single ward was enough to get Gilius to move forward.
And Splyce, I mean, just keep up the pressure. They may not be able to break an inhibitor here, but the gold solidly cemented in their favor at 30 minutes. Almost a 6K gold lead and just continuing to scale up on the silver pick.
Yeah, and just to make it better, like all the correct people have gotten all the kills on Splyce. Yeah, you double carry setup, the tanks can just get a bunch of assists, same for the support. Kabe is set up to completely take over this game.
And 100% kill participation from Xerxes on Zac. We talked about the team really wanting him on this pick to be the proactive one. We didn't see it in the early game, but when it came to turning everything around, he was a massive part of that. Odo now moving through, may just get caught out here, unstoppable with the flash forward. They're looking to pick off the tank. They want to get something there. There's nobody here on the side of Splyce to respond. They will get 1 kill. Odo flashing out as well, but now Niski looking to fire back. Zombie Odo wants something. Sleepy Gilius will make it out to safety. Cabo zones for the rest of his team there.
I think Odo was looking for a fight, but then they realized Niski was not there.
Yeah.
So the rest of the team just stepped away, and Odo was now caught, walking in himself, looking for that. Baron is spawning now. He's still dead for 35 seconds. That's a TP when he's alive, but that's 30 seconds for Vitality to try and set up at least something around the Baron.
And they have a pretty fast Baron-taking team as well. Both the Ezreal and the Azir primed and ready to just shred through its HP. Xerxes, can he go for the second steal? Will Gilius look to gamble? Or will Vitality, for the time being, just wait? Remember, TP is still available for Odo.
No flash for Mini Truebacks in this fight in case he gets CC'd. Vitality, they're around the Baron, but they're waiting so long that they can't actually do it now because Odo Amna would respawn, be able to TP into the fight in Splyce. Despite a mistake from their top laner, only lost a Drake. Oh, Niski.
Built enough of a lead that they can afford to make a small mistake like that. Not exactly what they'd like. Does lower their gold advantage a little bit, but still clearly in control of the Baron pit area. Will regain control. They have push on the top side and on bottom. Things looking pretty good for Splyce at this time in the game.
Yeah, really good. Look, your AD carry is practically full build. Late game Sivir, pretty terrifying, especially when it's in the hands of Cobbett. This guy playing in front of his home crowd wants to do his home country proud. I think I repeated that twice.
Makes him proud every day by being Danish.
That's true. Let's see if he can pull it off. These late game team fights are going to be so important for them. They have control over the top side river. And so with Zac again, think of all the angles he can look for to go for an engage. Right now, he has his eyes on his opposition.
Kabe could be in trouble here. Spell Shield does come through, but a lot of damage goes back on him. Odo now on the retreat. Vitality think that they find an opportunity there, but just burn a lot of ults.
So that was a good play from Vitality. Kabe stepping forward to try and deal a bit of damage. That flash could be huge for the next one. We know this Dragon here could decide the entire game. I mean, the Baron, of course, here on the top side if there's a fight happening, but there's probably not.
Wait.
Jizuke just bot lane killing a wave.
Why did Jizuke go bot? He's not the one with TP. Can Gilius get the
Gilius
steal?
does not have flash. Splyce are just going to get another Baron. No congestion.
What was that play from Vitality? Your top laner has TP. You have options available, and they give away a free Baron to Splyce that they are more than happy to walk away with.
They want to hear Silver Scrapes. That must be the answer.
You have to think that there might have been something a little bit more than musical preference
I don't
there
think
in that
so.
decision.
I'm pretty sure Vitality, that was their only rationale.
It's also the classic mid laner saying, guys, this is my farm.
Oh.
Do not touch this farm. I'm behind in this game. I need it.
But again, we were talking a little bit about eyes on Jizuke and how he's made amazing plays, but he's also made detrimental plays to his team. This was another one this game which could really hurt him and could very well have cost the game for Vitality.
That kind of moment, though, is often like a team call or someone not communicating. If Jizuke is saying, I'm going bot lane, someone should be yelling, no, you should not. We need to contest this Baron. We just forced flash from the enemy AD carry. This is a good moment for us to try and get back in this game. But he walks down there, and now Splyce moving down towards the mid lane. They have quite a lot of lanes to push in first before they can do anything. Bot lane is pushing actually against them right now, so they only have top.
Now what Vitality did last time Splyce got the Baron was force a bunch of engages to try and just delay the buff out. Splyce were able to get a couple of objectives, but they couldn't really break into the base. There's only the inhibitor turrets now standing in Splyce's way. They've already started building up a wave in top and mids, and they're looking to push things in.
It's so hard for Gilius, though, to actually force anything. He's level 14. He's so squishy when he steps forward. He's trying a little bit. That's one hit in his face.
And Xerxes, of course, waiting over the wall. If he had stepped any further, there would have been a Zac in the middle of the Vitality lineup. Kaveh, though, still struggling a little bit to get in and hit these towers, still very limited in his range. And the bot wave just continues to build in the favor of Vitality, so that will relieve at least a little bit of the pressure, stall out some of the Baron buff here.
Yeah, a lot of it, actually, because Splyce are completely resetting the map. We've seen them with Zac dive over the wall and appear behind the inhib turret to force the enemy team away and then kill that turret. Not doing it this time around, playing it extremely safe, realizing they have to go back to the bottom lane and catch their wave, and now trying to set it up again. But Elder Drake is spawning in about a minute's time. Cannot afford to lose that. If Vitality gets it with 4 Drakes on their side, and they can get that fight right after, that's a way to just win the game straight up.
Ever important win conditions, big objectives, kind of everything for both of these teams. Without a pick, without some kind of favored fight, they cannot really break a base. Need a Baron or an Elder Dragon to back them up. Splyce, though, doing what they can with the last 50 seconds of this Baron buff. However, Waves just are not in a great position. Make it one more push on that mid lane tower or on the bottom side, but Vitality moving in. Have to be careful here. The vision in the mid lane once again. Big for Splyce, may look for the engage.
They're baiting a little bit. They're hoping it comes
Drew back.
Oh, Drew back.
He's gonna get the knock up. Now has to try to make it out. He's not gonna get the chance. Kaveh on a rampage. Running through, just a single kill picked up, but there is the follow-up damage. NCC Niski speeding his way through the Vitality lineup. One member down. Splyce are gonna look to blow up in the space.
Who'd have thought that Splyce just sitting in a brush, waiting for Vitality to face check would be enough to break into their base. Splyce looking to take us to game 5, looking to claim vengeance over Vitality.
Niski trying to make his way out, but Xerxes goes right back in. Beautiful chain CC. The follow-up is there. Splyce wanna hear it. Silver scrapes, baby, they say. We will turn this one back. We will try to bring it home. They are going to bring us here to a game 5 in the 3rd place match.
Zac from Xerxes. Rough start, got invaded on. We're like, oh, okay, this is the problem. But didn't really get fully shut down. He got back into his game. He had some really good setups around some of these mid lane fights with good counter ganks, and of course Corby picking up all the early kills.
Yep, I mean, we just kind of see the difference when you put Vitality in this situation where they need to play these mid to late game kind of comps. They just failed to.
Yes.
Like, the Dragon was perfect for them. They had everything that they could want, yet they failed to execute when it matters most.
It's not a new thing that Vitality's late game is not their strength. It's early game. It's proactive, pushing, roaming comps, but they literally took Splyce's draft from game 3 and said, you guys failed to play this. We will show you how to play this.
And in terms of their carry duo, in terms of mid and AD carry, they swapped the role. They said, Jizuke, you have to chill in the early game. Mini Trupax, it's on you to play aggressive. After the entire series, it's shown us that when Jizuke is the one who gets to set the priority and Mini Trupax is the one who gets to scale, things just look good for the team as a whole.
But I feel like I would challenge that a little bit because I feel like the Mini Trupax has been like pre-lane dominant in every single game. And for Jizuke, he's just an individual that just seems to have these severe up and down performances where
He wanted to make a play, and it was the wrong time
and
to do it.
it was just the wrong time. Like Jizuke, you think about in Game 3 where he had that amazing 3-man to Leon knockback, and then you compare it to his Azir where he's like, oh no, you just dived into 3 people.
And the big difference there is that play was facilitated by the team. You had the Scion, he was coming in second. Everyone else had the setup. He was there to make sure that the fight turned in their favor. This game, he was all on his own, man.
It's just crazy to think back to that Dragon setup that effectively got Splyce ahead in this game, where it was Mini Trupax being strong, they were ready, they even started the Drake, Xerxes flies in, steals it, and with an AD carry just sitting on 2 items at that point, they still win the fight, not because of it, but because of some great plays from the rest of the team. Everything falls apart for Vitality. They lose the Baron as well. That was the biggest swing in favor of Splyce they could have hoped for in this game.
And I do feel like a lot of respect has to be shown to Splyce. The amount of times that they disengaged from a lot of the engagement Vitality tried to force as well, especially around mid. Like, they would often just trade ultimates, not be afraid to sacrifice those flashes just to make sure that Vitality did not find the fights that they tried so hard to create.
I think the first pick, Olaf, might return for Gilead.
That's what I feel.
They tried to steal away a bunch of picks.
But Splyce now has choice of side. They may look to pick blue side first,
They could.
lose the Swain ban, and then they can ban Olaf on their blue side.
A lot of options, a lot of variants available for whatever these guys want to do going into Game 5. Vitality had match points. Splyce kind of took it away from them, matched it up, tied it out. A single game left between both of these lineups. The pressure has to be building for both of these squads. Vitality were hoping for the 3-1, a confident closeout. And Splyce now looking to bring it back.
Remember that a place at Rift Rivals is what's on the line for these two teams. They want to be in next summer split, going over to North America, competing against the North American teams alongside G2 and Fnatic, getting that international experience. And for both teams, it would be extremely valuable, especially when you think of the veterans that are on the side of Splyce.
I mean, the points as well. Going to
Points
work.
as well, yeah.
Always end up being important. People ignore them in the spring split, and then when we actually tally it up towards the end of summer split, and we're like, oh, this team has the most or second most points, so they get to go. It's typically from the spring split.
Yeah, normally it's.
Is the case. Well, Splyce and Vitality have given us a perfect start to the weekend as we gear up for Game 5 in this thrilling series. The decider is just minutes away. Do not miss it.
We're doing fantastic in top as well. As long as we solve our issue in mid lane, there will be no issues, and we will go smooth sailing right into the victory.
V for victory. We'll see if Yamato Cannon is backed up by his players. Has the sidestep there. Knockup is going to connect. Jizuke now in trouble. Needs to make it out to safety. Shifting sands. Not enough. First blood comes in for Splyce.
Ole, mole.
But Xerxes in the back line. Suppressed before he can get anything else out. Meanwhile, Splyce is starting to clean up the fight. Mini Trupax on the retreat. Odoamne perfectly on the front line. They can't step into the sleeping trouble bubble. Everything is falling apart for Vitality. The follow-up is there. Splyce want to hear it. Silver scrapes, baby, they say. We will turn this one back. We will try to bring it home. They are going to bring us here to a Game 5 in the third place match.